You're watching News Central TV, and this is day 3 of the End Bad Governance protest. We're covering it live. Just to reiterate, we have our correspondents all across Nigeria to bring us live updates as they unfold. I am Adebola, Adedugba. I'm not alone. I am here with my colleague, that's Dapo, Adegboye.
Of course, Adebola, and of course, a lot has been happening across Nigeria, and News Central has been on top of it. Just for emphasis, in case you need to leave your television set, please feel free to move around with News Central. We are live across all social media platforms: Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, on Twitter. We are pretty much active. You know, in case you have that wedding to go to, please go with us so that we can, bring you up to speed on all of the happenings as regards this protest across Nigeria. Well, we have our guest in the studio for this half of the program, and I think Adebola, of course, will do the honors for the special introduction.
All right, to my right, I have George Ashiru, who is the chairman of the African Democratic Congress. To my far right, I have Taiwo Osanyin, who is a public implementation consultant. Gentlemen, glad to have you join us.
Thank you for having us.
My pleasure too. Thank you.
Okay.
All right. Let me start off with you, Ms. George. Now, this is day 3 of the protest. For some, they're beginning to question if at all any impact has been made, and if people still have their eyes on the ball. By that I mean the purpose of this protest. I would like you to know what your take as regards if at all this protest is getting the attention of those that need to see it and hear it.
Thank you very much. Every form of protest always has political value to the opposition, so you don't even want to encourage it. It also has economic implications to investors, because people coming into your country will begin to wonder if it's a good idea to come in with their resources. So if we look at it purely from the point of view of it's just people going out rampaging, that is not a very wise way as a leader to look at it. So my opinion is that whether it succeeded in terms of mass rallies around the whole country, whether it's just pockets of violence in some places, it draws the wrong kind of attention to the country. It will go into the news in other countries, and then they will focus only on the negative sides of it. That is embarrassment to the government at any level, and that will affect, like I said, international investments in the country, security. As you know, right now, United States and some European countries have already put out security alerts concerning visiting of the country. So we do not think that government should look at it as, oh, it's not as successful as we thought. That would be purely political. And even that will lose you a lot of votes in the next election.
What about you, Taiwo?
Oh, well, I'll look at it from two sides. I'm looking at it from the citizen end, and I will look at it from the political end. Now, from the citizens' end, the citizens are making a bit of strive in terms of the agitation. When this protest started in some states, we had different progressions. Initially, some state governors actually sat down, tried to negotiate with populace of the state, trying to encourage them not to come out to vote, to protest. Other states came up with different threats, and like we see in Abuja today, the body language of the Minister of FCT has changed, even though there has been a court injunction to not using the Abuja
Eagle
Square. Thank you.
So they moved them to
MKO Abiola Stadium. But the body language has changed from the threat to more of like a diplomatic approach now.
But are we seeing that, in their action? Because just this morning in Abuja at the MKO Stadium, we had a reporter on ground, and he had his fair dose of tear gas.
Well, that's why I'm saying that the action of citizens speaks loud, in the sense that the citizens are making their own demands known to the government, and the government have also understood that this is no longer a child's play. Unlike when the protest was to start, Now it has started. They have seen it. And some of the moderators or the organizers have said that the protest might even go for more than 10 days. On the other end of the government are trying to make every possible means to ensure that they can curb these issues down to avoid pockets of violence, like some states in Sokoto, Kano, Kaduna, and other states like Akwa Ibom and Co., even though we've not witnessed any violence in some part of the South-South region. But having said that, in the summary, the truth of the matter is the protest is galvanizing some kind of tentacles that is making the government uncomfortable.
No, still talking about those protests. We have concerns as to if protesters are, can be restricted, so to speak, to certain areas, or is it a case of them, some people are saying that you can't restrict them, that it's not constitutional, but others are saying that, they seem to have violated court order. What do you make of that?
Well, it depends on what divide of the defense you are. On the part of the government have said, Lagos State went to court, got a court injunction, you should use the Ganifa Army Park. Abuja said use MK Abiola Stadium. River State said use the this other place that they are using right now. If we do not do that, or if the governors do not do that, if the chairpersons of the state do not do that, there will be a problem, because it's going to turn out to be a chaotic situation. Now, imagine you coming in and you don't have anywhere to go through, and there are no alternative routes to pass through, so there will be a problem. Having said that, the protesters, genuine protesters, quote me, genuine protesters, know the fact that organizing themselves in a secluded area galvanizes more attention than moving around. It's more stressful moving around in the real sense of it.
But they have said that, restricting them to a particular area is more like a carnival, which they are not doing. And so they need to feel heard, to be seen much more. They need to troop out in numbers into the streets.
Well, it depends. The government is also not comfortable around that approach, considering the fact that some elements who pretend to be protesters could hijack this situation and begin to loot other government parastatals and private sectors. So if you put everybody on the street, for example, the protesters are talking about the National Assembly. We've seen different threats on social media saying that the people who are in IDP camps, who are not comfortable, should start living in the National Assembly. We've had such different threats. So imagine the government now says, okay, let's throw it open.
So basically, you're saying in the interest of
it's the interest of the national security. Simple.
Well, let's backtrack a bit. I would want to come to you, Mr. Ashiru. I mean, you are the chairman of the African Democratic Congress, and let's look at the genesis in Lagos State. Let's look at the genesis of all of this, and that has to do with the policies of the current administration. What people are saying is that since those policies were introduced, basic items, particularly feeding, has skyrocketed. People are not saying that, oh, hardship there's always been hardship, but it's never been this bad, and they traced it to the subsidy removal, regime, and then putting it side by side, pari passu, the lifestyle of some politicians who are telling Nigerians, be patient with us and tighten your belt. I'd like you to react on some of the policy achievements of this administration vis-a-vis the fact it keeps telling Nigerians, be patient with us.
I can't speak for the achievements of this government. I don't speak.
Basically, your reaction on it, as an opposition party.
Yeah, I don't speak for the government. But what I would say is this, and it's tone deaf in leadership for you to be a political leader and not have a sense of what the people want.
So are you saying there's a disconnect?
Definitely. You see, once empathy goes away, then the next thing you are going to see are policies that are not engineered for the benefit of the masses. I'm saying this with all sense of responsibility very calmly. I was here just a week ago, and it was a different matter. Before this thing started, we said these people that are screaming and shouting, end to this, end to that, they're asking for empathy. Don't wait until they start. I said it. Now they have started. So I'm basically looking and wondering that if your wife is already telling you that I'm going to leave you, you are saying, let her leave first, then I'll go and beg her. So what we have here is that there are loads of things beyond just one or two policies. You know, to get an international passport is more expensive. To get driving license has gone up. Almost everything that comes from the government is far more expensive than it used to be. And on top of it, if not for the fact that Labour started fighting for minimum wage, people would have still had to take out of 30,000, 35,000 naira to buy things that are 10 times, 5 times much more than the national minimum wage. So whether you like it or not, 70% of Nigerians are under 40. And about 50% of them are not employed. Look at the statistics. Those are the people you're seeing out there now. So when you don't give them an employment, and then even from the little allowances they get here and there, they cannot survive on it. The next thing you're going to see is a reaction of the people. This is pure organic.
All right, sorry,
yes,
but
go ahead,
I, of course, will come back to the studio, but we understand that our correspondent, Ni Omoni, who is at Ojota at the moment, has an update for us. So let's get it. Ni, what's the update now?
Just let's have a feel of what the update is about. I would like to start from the T-shirt you're wearing. Day one, day two, we didn't see much of this kind of coordination in terms of the T-shirt, in terms of what is representing different colors. Now it's beginning to take shape. And I do understand when you were up there, you were mentioning something about strategy. What is this strategy you're going to employ?
Well, it's becoming obvious to us that this struggle is going to be a long one. And that is because it's day 3 now, and it's very obvious that neither the president of the country nor his governors are prepared to even try and give the impression that they have heard Nigerians, let alone that they want to begin to meet our demands. So from that point of view, we are beginning to discuss how long this struggle will take us and how we have to ensure that we begin to put, forward stable and formal structures, democratic structures for our movement. For instance, we are starting to set up, welfare committees to take care of other aspects, while we also are beginning to discuss strategies as to how to ensure that the struggle goes on for as long as it will take. And by this weekend, we are going to be ensuring that we also see how we unify the movement across the country. But this is a nationwide movement. It cannot become a one-state movement or a few-state movement. But we understand that in certain places, especially in the north, our brothers and sisters were visited with heavy crackdown by the army and the police on the first and the second day. And we are going to respond to that, because an injury to one is an injury to all. The Nigerian police do not think that they have the right to kill people in the north and those of us in the south will not respond. These are some of the issues that we are going to resolve on over the next couple of days, and we are then going to announce to the media about what we are going to do. But let no one have any doubt that we are simply just going to shout for a few days and then we are going to forget about this struggle. We are going to ensure that for as long as you take, all of the questions we are asking in the government about fuel price hike, about electricity tariff, about lack of jobs, about lack of a minimum wage, about lack of access to public education and healthcare, about the looting of our treasury, and about a capitalist economic system that only works for a few instead of a mass majority. All of these questions, for as long as they go unanswered, the struggle of the Nigerian people shall continue. So this is what I can say for now.
I was going to ask you, and I see you already touched bases with this. Is it that the response of what happened in the north, because we know that Lagos was quite calm, and some of your people have even applauded the cooperation of the police from day one till now. Are we saying that the response or the incidents of what happened in the north is what is making you now take more steps, and we can see the crowd more agitated, we can see people more outspoken in Lagos? Is that a step?
Yeah, obviously, we are saddened by a report that just on the first day, 25 of our brothers and sisters across the country, especially in the north, were killed by the police. We are completely saddened by that, and that, in a way, has also contributed to our resolve to ensure that the struggle in Lagos continues, because that's the only way to ensure that the blood that has been shed, does not go to waste. So that's a part of it. But also here in Lagos, there are other factors that has made us even more resolved. And that's the fact that we have seen that despite our best effort to explain to the government and to the police that as much as we are prepared to be calm and peaceful, something which I think we have copiously demonstrated over the past couple of days, the police continues to say that we do not have a right, to freedom of movement. They have accepted our right in a way to freedom of assemblage, and we want that through a lot of effort over the last 48 hours. But they continue, to disregard our right to peaceful movement. All of the arguments against this are completely unacceptable to us. The idea that there are thugs and miscreants who are going to kill us once we march on the street is not something we are going to accept, because we understand that the miscreants and the thugs have always been there. But when the government wants to do elections, INEC officials manages to go to all the nooks and crannies of this country, including the most dangerous places. They will set up the polling booths. And there's no record of INEC not doing that because they're afraid of miscreants. What the police have always done is to ensure that they provide security so that that democratic activity, which is an election, can take place. And that's to demonstrate that over the years, the Nigerian police itself have always insisted that the democracy that we claim to have will not be submitted to miscreants. We think that a protest is the highest form of democracy. Is the highest form of citizen participation in a government. That also deserves the utmost protection of the police against alleged miscreants or hoodlums. So what we expect the IGP to do, and the CPA in Lagos, regardless of what the CP may have done that we have applauded, what we still expect him to do is to guarantee that we have that right. But if he does not, that means he himself is creating a basis for the state to have a problem that we do not want. Because we are not going on any day, at any hour, agree that we cannot march on the street. The roads that we are going to march on are constructed with taxpayers' money. We are not marching in anybody's backyard. So in a way, we are actually marching on public roads that is actually ours. How can a group of people go somewhere and say people don't have that right? We are not going to agree to that. So what we have said at our Congress, because today we try to move and the police insisted that we could not go, and we have respected that. But what we have said at the Congress today is that by Monday that movement is going to happen. We are going to assemble here by 7 a.m. and we are urging all Nigerian people, all the youth in Lagos, you must make it a date in history by 7 a.m. on Monday, August 5. We want all of us to mass up here, and we are going to take the street in an organized manner. Ahead of that, we are going to send notice to the CP. If he wants to meet with us or anything, we don't have any problem. But whatever discussions to do, what they are going to do to ensure that we have that match. But that we're not going to have that match, let them forget it. We are not slaves. I said that on the first day. Nigerians have never submitted to slavery. Even during the 300 transatlantic slavery, we fought. We are not going to submit to this servitude they are preparing for us.
Thank you very much. The freedom of assembly has been achieved, according to Soweto. They fought for it and they got it. Now the freedom of movement is what they are fighting for. And the date that has been set is August 5, Monday, 7 a.m., if I'm correct. And that is the D-Day. Over to you, Dapo.
All right, Nee, thank you so much for the update. And of course, we will keep tabs with you in due course.
Absolutely. I mean, just to follow up on what's played out right there, our correspondent is talking to one of the protesters. Let me come to you, Mr. Osanyin. I mean, looking at the demands of the protesters, which one do you think the government can immediately address so as to quell, further protest?
It's unfortunate that firstly, I'm a card-carrying member of the All Progressive Congress, the current administration. But it saddens me that the current administration is not performing in the real sense of it. Reality has to be said. Nigeria, we owed. APC might retire or expire. I wrote an open letter on Thursday, a week before the protest started, to the president. And I urged him to do certain things. The first thing was address the nation. And when I mean address the nation, I'm talking about not on TV. No. Enough of all these formats. The Nigerian youth don't need the TV anymore. They are assembled on Twitter. So I have a Twitter space of over 20 million Nigerian youths. Speak to them. They will abuse you. They will call you names. They will give you every shout. You take it. You're the president. You once said that you should not be pitied for the job. However, you should be able to take the shout and everything that they're going to throw at you. And I said it before. Don't do any media route. Go on Twitter space and hold a 20 million people Twitter space for over 2 hours. Let the Nigerian youth vent. Let them talk. Let them abuse you. And then give them a sense of hope. With timelines. What we're going to do this, we're going to fix this at this point in time. We're going to fix this at this point in time. We're going to do this at this point in time. And I can tell you, who now of these charades of nonsense we have on the street of Lagos and in the entire state of Nigeria today? But unfortunately, we have a government that is full of sycophants. Many people today are surrounded because of what they can eat and what they can chew. And nobody is telling the president the reality of it. And when you tell him, some people are removed from their offices because why? They don't want to hear the truth. And that is saddened. And I tell people something today. The truth has to be said, whether we like it or not.
Just to chip in.
Yes,
there.
please.
Some persons say the government long before have been listening to people. They say there's been introduction of CNG, buses.
Where is the CNG buses?
Just to,
let's allow Taiwo.
Where is the CNG buses? I'm a party member of the APC. I am not talking because I'm an opposition. I'm paid because my people out there are paid. I know how many calls I receive every day on phone calls on messages to send me this, send me that. I was outside yesterday. People were gathering me as if I've stolen the government funds. I had to appeal to them as well. People are hungry on the streets. Let the reality be said. People in the offices, in the government offices, are too comfortable not to be told the truth. And I have friends who are ministers. I have friends who have essays to the president and governors. And I tell them these things. What are you telling the president? And the reality is this. Nobody is telling the president anything. Because why? They are comfortable collecting their largesse of funds. Nobody's really telling the government the truth.
So the narrative or the rhetoric of Nigerians, please be patient for my policies to mature.
I would ask the APC where I stand. If any other political party, if Peter Gregory Obi was the president of Nigeria, if Atiku Abubakar was the president of Nigeria, if His Excellency Rabi Kwankwaso was the president of Nigeria, and all these things are happening, would the APC sit down and tell Nigerians that they should be patient with the president? Let us be civil with sense of responsibility for nationhood. The government has failed from day one. And I will say it because from the day he removed subsidy, May 29, that was the first day he shot himself on the feet. I want subsidy to be removed. Excellently well. The truth has to be said. I want subsidy to be removed. We cannot continue to pay 3 trillion naira every month for what? For oil marketers. Rubbish. When we have refineries not working, some people are getting salaries every month in millions, in 7 figures, not doing anything because refineries are not working. But the truth is this, the president won the election around February or March. And then he had 2 months to create a platform and a well-systematic project for the eradication of subsidy. The CNG buses they are talking about today, where are the CNG buses today? We don't have any CNG buses. You came on air some months ago in October to speak to the nation and telling us that you're going to bring 500 CNG buses in all the states and whatever. Where are the CNG buses today? We don't have anything. Take up for some states like Lagos State today, who are trying to alleviate a bit of poverty.
Taiwo, let me leave you for a moment. Let me go to Mr. Ashiru. I mean, you saw Ni and you saw Soweto. That's the young youth protester on the street. And one issue that stood out is they said yes, they've been able to defeat the aspect of freedom of association. Right now, it's freedom of movement that they want to push for. And we've seen what has happened in other states, particularly in the northern region where it snowballed into violence. And I want to believe that maybe the reason to, for restricting movement is for security matters. Now, we're at crossroads, what do you make of this?
Number one, that's the benediction. Thank you very much. Yes. Like I said, it's like word for word what I said here in this same studio a week ago. That's why you see I'm so calm now. It's like, we have already said it's going to happen. I was one of those that participated in protests in university days to remove Babangida. June 1993, I was out there. I was confronted by DSS, SSS at that time, DMI, almost arrested. So we all, some of us, we have been through this, what the youth are now trying to do. When we were younger, we've been through it. Sometimes, when people are angry, legislature or any form of laws, they don't feel bound by it. In fact, they feel cheated by the law. So the idea that you can tell people that they must leave Ajangbadi, find their way when there's no transport, to come all the way to MKO Garden before they can protest. Already, it's like you're telling them don't protest. So the truth is, if they really want to protest, in every local government, young people are at least 2-3 million in most local governments. They will come out in those local governments, and it will be difficult to manage. So what he said is the critical thing, is the same thing I've said before. When there were protests all over the world in the days of Black Lives Matter, all over the entire world, because of one person that was killed, governments were very quick to get out there and manage this thing.
But why do you think the government has not said anything?
So it's back to what I said when I first started. I said the moment leadership lacks empathy, you cannot connect with the people. You feel that we are your leaders. Whatever, it's a feudalism. It's an old way of leading. This hierarchical methodology, whatever we say, you people have to follow. There is absolutely nothing wrong, like he said, with the president of Nigeria doing a physical town hall, a virtual town hall, or even just coming out in Abuja and saying, just let a certain number of people come, let me physically meet them. Not in Aso Villa. It could be in Igu Square. Arrange. The mere fact that people are seeing him, hearing him, feeling him, and he's saying, I really, really recognize what you're doing. I have been through it before. I did it too. I'm very sorry, but I have to manage it in a very organized way. I cannot just simply reintroduce subsidy. There are so many issues. I cannot change this immediately, but I will give you a timeline. This by October, this by September, that's what we call strategic planning. When you are specific with that information, and your proteges, that is the people who are serving you, SAs and all that, they go out with that message. The governors go out with message. And there's a consistency in that message. A lot of young people are not foolish, they're educated. They will listen and they will say, okay, let's give them a chance.
Just to come in there, how do you situate the position of the police force who say that if protests persist, they're not armed enough to restrict violence and they may bring in the military? What do you make of that? In the end, that's what is going to happen. It's not a matter of police making a statement. It's a reality that is on the ground. Look at what happened in Borno. People took cover of the riots to bring terrorists to attack, and then there was a bomb blast that killed 20 people. So, of course, the army is not going to sit down because they know that the police is not trained to take care of terrorists. So the truth of the matter is that the president and the governors must understand that when anarchy is staring you in the face, which means you can no longer legislate behavior, you must be proactive in managing it. And the police is simply following orders. That's why I can never hold police responsible. It is whoever, they cannot on their own decide to do anything. Somebody must give them information or instruction, either from Abuja or from the head of the government in the state. So they're simply doing what they're asked to do. I've been around, even to come here and everywhere. You will see them along the road. They'll say, how are you? Where are you going? They're polite. They're doing their job. And if it was to be the days in the military, when we were rioting in Unilag, it is the army that will come to the gates. We will carry our bag and baggages like this and walk all the way to wherever we came from. We understood what real riots and protests were. We suffered for it.
But with the way the younger generation are going about it now, since you've been part of the struggle even as a young man, are we going about it the right way to get the kind of result that we hope to achieve?
It's more disappointing. because we were fighting the military. We understood we were fighting against dictators. We understood their behavior. We understood why they did what they did and how they behaved to us. But when you're talking to people that you struggle to elect, people you lined up to elect, people that you hustled to campaign for, to shout, go on Twitter everywhere, say, this is my candidate, this is my candidate, this is my candidate. You expect more from them.
That's it.
You expect more from them.
All right, Taiwo, I mean, I would like you to react. At the people, the guys on the streets, are they going about it, you know, in such a way that at the end of the day, the focus is not lost and the attention of those in power is gotten? You know,
I would like to also retract to 2020. I'm still a very young man. I'm one of the Nigerian youth, so forget the old beard and the old kaftan on me. But the truth has to be said. In 2020, the EndSARS protest, I will let Nigerians know that the fact is the EndSARS protest was the best protest Nigeria ever had. And the truth is, Mr. Ashiru, I said the truth. During their days, they were fighting the military, the dictators. Today, they are fighting people they voted for. It's a different conversation. And when you fight people you voted for, you hustled for, you struggled for, you campaigned for, and they're disappointing you, then you begin to reflect, were we used? And then, when we go back to EndSARS, the protest was going on peacefully. It is the best protest Nigeria has ever had in its history. Let everybody not be deceived by the engagement that happened on October 20, 2020. For them, for the older generation, they were not calm. I read history. I read the history. Ali must go. The Ali must go riot. It was a rich versus the poor. You are in a vehicle, whether you are a governor, you are a government official or not, you are stoned to death. These ones are even more wicked than our. No, it's the truth. This generation are more wicked than our generation. Our generation only care about the fanfare. I never read in history where when you guys were struggling for democratic rule, you guys had DJs. Where was that from?
There was no internet.
What is that nonsense for? We see them putting DJs, chanting, dancing, having fun, eating. They are cool people, and they want to be treated coolly. However, if you try to monopolize their act of coolness, because this Gen Z generation, they don't send you, they will trigger that wickedness from their old generation. And that is where the destruction will begin. People will say EndSARS protest ended with destruction, but people have forgotten that the youth were triggered after about how many lives were lost. It was the trigger that made them to go and say, we are going to burn down BLT lanes. We're going to burn down BLT buses. We're going to burn down shops and legislative offices.
But at the end of the day, many will still ask if at all, you know,
was it necessary?
Exactly.
It wasn't necessary, but that was the only way they could actually to counter their own defense.
Mob action will occur naturally.
Naturally, when you trigger the people.
Is it possible for it to be contained? That's where I'm going.
You cannot, I said it again, you cannot legislate human emotion. You cannot. Somebody who has decided to kill, knows the law, decides to kill. You cannot legislate somebody who is angry about whatever. You deal with the root of the anger. So it's back to the idea that you people are going to riot and I will use police to shoot you. It is not going to solve the problem.
Let me ask Mr. Ashiru. There's been talks around certain persons being identified, certain senators being identified as sponsoring this protest, being politically motivated. What's your assessment of such?
What's the meaning of sponsor? So if I go out there now and I take water and I say these young people protesting, they're protesting for the good of Nigeria. And I want my children and my grandchildren and great-grandchildren to benefit from the work they're doing, just like other people have benefited from the struggle. This Ali Mosgo you're talking about, I was in secondary school, I was in Form 3. So if I believe that to be right, and it's proper democracy, I should be able to go out there and say, sorry, I may not be able to join you people. I may not be able to hustle and struggle. I don't want to get high blood pressure and die in the middle of the struggle. I'm almost 60. That's the truth. So the best thing is take water, take gala. They will now say, ADC chairman, you're sponsoring. No. Let's separate from those who plot in secrecy to fight the ruling government. That's a different matter. If there's evidence or proof that some people sat and decided that, you know what, Babangida said something. Babangida said for a coup to succeed, you have to create an enabling environment for that coup. How? You must make sure that you create a situation where the people will call for the coup. Which means for them to succeed, they can sponsor this kind of miscreants to create an anarchy. Then they will say, we are coming to save the country. That was so it's possible. But what is the job of the DSS? What is the job of the security intelligence agencies? It is their duty to look for it and bring the facts. Somebody nearly killed a presidential candidate in America. Look at, immediately, there was a Senate committee, that committee. Immediately, somebody was held responsible. Facts are coming out. This is how you govern. You don't govern with rhetoric and emotion, with I'm there, impunity. And I'm saying this with all sense of responsibility. The governor of Lagos State is a gentleman. He's doing well. Lagos is a cosmopolitan arena. So many different tribes are here. So it cannot be said to be these people against that people. You understand? And it has been peaceful. Even Soweto, yeah, it's agitated, but it's very peaceful. But when I was young, I was one of those people that met Mandela when he first came to Nigeria. I was one of those that was selected to meet Nelson Mandela in 1990. May shook his hand. He said something very important. He said, the greatest tragedy of life is that those who fight for the freedom of the people end up enslaving them.
Yes.
Let's take note of it.
And that's the point I was getting at. And the sad part is this. Most of the governors, the president, have been a sponsor and even a facilitator of protest. The ironical part is they are now the ones in power.
So are you suggesting that this is more of personal interest as against the collective good?
For me, I have said Nigeria is not practicing democracy. We are practicing kleptocracy. The government for the thief, by the thieves, and it's government of the thieves, by the thieves, and for the thieves. And let me tell you the reason why.
Okay.
Because I'll give you a very practical analogy. If I become the president, or the president appoints me as a minister today, or even head of a parastatal, in the space of 24 hours, Dapo, I will have more than 100 missed calls from my parents, family members, friends, and far colleagues that have never remembered the family, and send congratulatory messages. In the next 2 weeks, you will start hearing messages like, well, I am into this. I am into that. My child is looking for job. And then, after 2 weeks, maybe a month, if I am not ready to give them what they want, I become the enemy of the people. And what happened is this, simple, is that at the long run, I'll become unpopular if I am not giving them what they expect. And I will become popular when I give them what they demand, not even caring where I got it from. So, for example,
are you because I'm trying to understand where you're headed with this. Are you saying that all of this rot, quote and unquote, in the system isn't just exclusive of the leadership?
No,
but also trickles down to every Nigerian.
It's every Nigerian. As they say, your leadership is a symbol, is a shadow of who the people are. That is the honest truth.
So how do you think this can be corrected?
Two things. One, the Constitution. And two, the mindset of the people. And I will tell you the reason why the Constitution. If you look at the Nigerian Constitution today, very wonderful document. But the sad part of it is this, the ironical part of it is this. The people that drafted the Constitution that we are using today are the military. That we pursued in 1999, gave you a document to rule, and you are using it. So that document is already a flawed on arrival. It's called DOA, in medical terms, dead on arrival. It can never govern anything. And that is why in the Constitution today, anybody that has gone to the Constitution, you will see that there is always a clause that will not make the law that has been enacted or that is supposed to be enacted to work effectively. You will see clause something. So for example, let me go back to the INEC electoral law. The electoral law says, use beavers to do registration, use beavers to do accreditation, but you cannot do electronic collation of results. You can still use manual collation. So what that means is this. The Constitution, the electoral law has given INEC the power to glitch the system.
Although that
and the system was glitched to do electronic, to avoid electronic.
That was recently amended anyway.
Well, that is what?
The beavers aspect. But I think you've pretty much established the fact that Nigerians themselves have a role to play,
of course,
in all of this rot. But that brings me to the question of structure, building structures that are more stronger, that are accountable than individuals. You made reference to the United States, where accountability is everything. And that's a result of the structure. One of the candidates for presidency had issues in court. They did not say you're a former president and then immunity clause. No. The guy was found guilty even though the law still says he can run. I mean, the sitting president, his son too had issues.
Yep.
So, I mean, that's a country that runs on structures.
Yes.
So my question to you is this. How do we build the Nigerian system in such a way that irrespective of your political affiliation, your party, your tribe, where you're coming from, your religion, the structure ensures that you are accountable to the collective good?
So let's not conflict culture with structure. So the structure or the Constitution, fantastic. It's all down to who is implementing it and the culture of leadership that they are using to implement it. So I'll give an example. I was once a president of one of the national sports federations. A minister came in and said, I want to make some changes. I want to create a culture. There's resistance that, no, in the civil service, we have our own culture. But the minister is the head of the agency. He wants to implement the laws as provided by the president. He goes to cabinet, comes back from cabinet and says, this is what I'm going to do. And they will say, no. People are going to come and go, including the president. This is how we do things. That's what is killing us in Africa. And Nigeria being a massive country where it's more obvious. The culture of impunity, the culture of never following laws. The person that goes one way along the road, are you telling me he doesn't know there's a law? There's a law and he knows, but he has decided that I will go one way. It's a culture of impunity. It goes back to what he's saying is about people just deciding that I am above that law. I'm immune to persecution because I can go to my brother who is high up in authority, I can go to that person who's high up, and then I can get a waiver. So we need to go back to the second thing which he was going to talk about, which is how do we change the ideology of the younger generation to follow rules, follow laws, follow processes. But then the people who are leading right now are not even doing so. How is it that I have done 5 interviews, all talking about this protest, all talking to government, all begging government, engage. And as we are speaking, they're not listening. That's impunity.
Just to quickly chip in, you talked about culture. Now, talking about culture and our way of living in Nigeria, what's your assessment of the role or performance, so to speak, of the National Orientation Agency so far?
You know, National Orientation Agency, MAMSA, whatever their various titles and names are, they're agencies created by government to put people in positions. The only place you can change culture and ideology is at the ward level. It's the one that concerns people directly on their streets. A lot of Nigerians don't know what's going on in Abuja. They don't know the names of these agencies. They've never heard of them before. A lot of Nigerians don't watch NTA. They don't watch these federal institutions that are promoting all these ideas. Why? Because it's not trickled down. It's not cascaded. That is why local government is government. In a true structure in any country, the local government is the true government, not the presidency. But because the presidency controls 50% of our Commonwealth, that's why all eyes are there.
Okay.
But if we had a proper system of administration where the local government, the local chiefs, the local government, the councillors are controlling the Commonwealth, because when you pay your taxes, you expect to see the immediate impact of that tax in your own environment, not the military, not airports. If you never fly, what's your business with how beautiful the airport is? But how about your local school? How about your local health center that's dirty? Local government. Primary education, weak. Local government. This is where we start from. Those agencies, until there is a local government version of it, is never going to be impacted on the people.
Well, I understand we're pressed for time. Let me get the way forward from Mr. Osanyin. Where do we go from here?
Where do we go from here? Firstly, the president needs to address the nation. That is the first thing. It's going to be rhetorical. I think almost 37 stations in the states today, in the country today, are carrying this end governance protest. The president needs to address the nation. Secondly, the people have told you, they are very nice people. That's why I said, this generation are not nice. These people have told you, August 5, we are going to march to the street. They have preempted you, telling you what they are going to do, and they are going to do it. What are you going to do to stop them? Civilly, not forcefully, from not doing it. It's engagement.
All right, Taiwo, I understand that we need to go on a break. When we return, of course, we will pick up from where we stopped. It's still News Central special broadcast on the End Bad Governance protest across Nigeria. Stay with us. This is still News Central special coverage of the End Bad Governance protest in Nigeria. And of course, we've been on it from day one. This is day 3 of the protest. And just to bring you up to speed, we have our correspondents scattered across, the length and breadth of Nigeria, bringing you live coverage of the happenings there. Just also for emphasis, in case you need to leave your television set, we're streaming live across social media platforms, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, YouTube. You can follow us there for live updates. Yes, take us around with you. Let's, be part of your day. I still have with me my guest, or we still have with us the guest and my co-anchor, and not forgetting Adebola. Adebola?
Yes,
since 12. We still have in the studio, of course, Taiwo Osanyin is with us, and George Ashiru. George Ashiru is actually the chairman, African Democratic Congress, Lagos State. Taiwo is a political analyst, a one-time contestant too, right? And very much a friend of the family house. Of course, joining us at this time also to a list of guests is Maxwell Adeleye. Maxwell earlier joined us, but we are bringing him back. He's the APC Chieftain and Strategic Communications Expert. He's joining virtually. We also have Hassan Nuruddin as a programs manager, Hope Behind Bars Africa. They both are joining virtually. Thank you for staying with us, and also thank you for joining, gentlemen. Maxwell, are you there? Okay. Of course, while we are still trying to connect with Maxwell and Hassan, let me come back to the studio. Now, while on break, we discussed quite a number of issues, and I specifically said I was going to raise this, and that's the process of electing our leaders in Nigeria. It would only make sense to attack a problem, if at all, from its roots, and that's one of the issues there. Unfortunately, what we've seen in elections, particularly recent elections in Nigeria, is that it's heavily monetized the wrong way. You see politicians buying the conscience of people. People who use the word poverty has been used as a tool.
It's been weaponized.
Has been weaponized. And aside that, we also see individuals who maybe do not have the financial capacity to run for office, but are genuinely interested in taking up public office, and at some point have to compromise by meeting individuals with the means And eventually, when they get into power, they are more loyal to their sponsors than the collective good. The issue of godfatherism is where I'm headed. How do you think these issues can be addressed? Let me start with you, Mr. George.
So weaponizing poverty means there's poverty. There first has to be poverty before you can take advantage of it to manipulate people into a decision. And then ignorance. A lot of people don't understand that the end result of the decision they make at the poll is going to come back to affect them when the wrong persons are elected. So that's why I say we have weak political education, because it's a new culture for us. And then two, there's a generational poverty, which means whoever has the means. You see this urgent 2K, it's probably somebody's kit, but that's somebody else's life. Somebody who, because of this current protest, can't leave the house, will not eat that entire day. That's how important that 2,000 naira will be for such a person. So for as long as there's poverty, then political system is going to be very expensive. Now look at the other side of it, United States. A woman called Kamala Harris decided to accept the nomination. Just the day she was endorsed, she raised $100 million. 888,000 Americans donated $100 or less to her campaign. Is it not the other way around? But here, we are expecting the Kamala Harris of Nigeria to come and give us that money. That's poverty. And the question is this: what are we doing to lift people out of poverty? Because until people are lifted out of poverty, they will think through their stomachs, and the actions they take will be monetized. So people believe that politicians genuinely don't want people to be lifted out of poverty. People believe that those elected into power don't take decisions that are for the empowerment, alleviation of poverty of the people. That they will take the resources given to them and give it to the handful that are loyal directly to them, leaving more people poorer than ever. So these are the cultures we need to face in this kind of conversation. The conversation we should be having really is, are you elected for the people? You know, his definition of democracy is obviously opposite of what it's supposed to be.
What it's supposed to be.
It's for the people. But right now, we have a problem where the average elected individual really did not have the goodwill of the people. Let me repeat that again. The average elected individual, it is not by the goodwill of the people. It is because he happens to be on a platform that is popular, paid for, and has monetized that electoral process.
I mean, that's a fundamental problem. Taiwo, let me come to you. I mean, you've run for office before as a young person. You have been, you've been in the trenches, political trenches. Let me use that word. I mean, reflecting on your own personal experience, interfacing with people, having to raise funds, you know, yourself to run for office. I mean, I have quite a number. I have a friend who also did run, aside you. He said he went to his village, or he went to his community to speak to them. And after he spoke, very intelligent guy, all the English he could speak in this world, they all listened and applauded. And then they asked him in their native language, Shotiton. Minda, is that all? Is that all? You know, and he was like, okay, what else do you expect? Say, we thought you were going to share, you know, rice or, you know, items. And he said, sorry, that's not his ideology. The point I'm trying to make is, he said his candidate won because she barely even showed up. It was more of items and money moving around. That's the core of the issues. So I would like you to speak to the issue of, number one, monetization when it comes to our electoral, you know, process, the issue of godfatherism, and the Electoral Act, the laws itself. Is it built in such a way that Nigerians, just like he said, the people they voted for is the people that eventually get to office?
Well, unfortunately, what my colleague here said is actually not far from the truth. As a candidate and a political, as a candidate of the 2019 election, I knew how much I spent personally. I didn't get sponsors from anywhere, be it from my political party or whatever you. I got maybe support from 2 people who are family friends and a very close party member. And having said that, the sad part is this: the people are waiting for what you are going to give them on the day of election, even before the day of elections. So what I mean is this: for every campaign I go for, they were not ready to listen to me. They were ready to get what I wanted to offer. So let me give you an example. In my local government, in my own ward, where I live, or where I have lived for more than 18 years, I could only get 4 votes out of 6 polling units. So there are 6 polling units in my area, in where I live. I could only galvanize 4 votes. But let me be frank with you. Because what? I'm not a bad person. I've not had a track record of criminal activities before. I've been a very dear citizen. I have had good track record. I've engaged with the youth. I've had activities with the youth. But the fact is this: I did not have the funds to give them. Because I felt that on a good way, we all know each other. I've lived with you guys for more than 15 years. Where I should be spending my money on should be outsiders who do not know me. But unfortunately, ironically, the people that did not know me, the people that I never stayed with, the people that I've never seen my face, only engaged me once when there was an issue, where an accident happened and I went there at Ikota Villa, voted en masse for me, and I gave it to them to tomorrow. Because why? They trusted me. And not because of money. And let me now say it again. What about the money sharing? It has to be done, unfortunately, because of the system we are. You see a woman that comes to meet you when you are campaigning and says, oh, she just gave birth. She doesn't have money to pay the hospital bills. Oh, a child, a baby needs Pampers. Oh, a baby needs food stuff. Out of empathy, as you said earlier, you just want to give, not because you, and that does not still give you the assurance, quote me, that they're going to vote for you. I spent more money where I live, and I got 4 votes. I spent less money where I don't live, and I got more votes.
Okay, let me get the perspective of, just to bring us back to these end bad governance, protests. Let me get the perspective of Mr. Ashiru now. We've seen different skirmishes of violence here and there. Protesters allegedly have, blamed security officers of not protecting them, allowing people to infiltrate their protests. What would you say, or your assessment so far of the conduct of security officers in the conduct of these, end bad governance protests so far?
Okay, so obviously I was out and about on the first day. And it was quiet and peaceful, most parts of Lagos. And I saw some people in Alausa, and they were dancing, and everything looked okay. I saw people at Ojota, and it looked peaceful. So if I were to use Lagos as a basis, I probably would say that it was well managed in Lagos. But when we look at the television and we see what happens in the north, you have to understand that there are certain areas of this country that there should never be any form of protest. Because those people don't have anything they want to say. They just want to
vent.
Vent. It's a culture they don't have. It's something they're not used to doing. When it was NSAS, it was just Lagos.
And
all the noise that was made all over the world, it was mainly Lagos and a couple of places, not a single protest anywhere else. So when people decide to come out, especially when it has to do with their direct physical, what has impacted them directly, then it becomes an emotional matter. Now, the police would then have a bigger problem. Managing a well-organized crowd is different from managing a mob.
Okay. Let me leave you for a moment, Mr. Ashiru. Let me bring in our virtual guest. Hassan Nuruddin is a program manager, Hope Behind Bars Africa. He joins virtually, and also Fidelis Ede is the former national vice president of the Nigeria Labour Congress. Gentlemen, thank you for joining the conversation at this time. Let me start off with you, Fiddlis. I mean, looking at the ongoing protest, how would you say or rate the body language of the Nigerian Labour Congress as an institution in all of this?
Well, this idea of body language is something that is gradually creeping in into national discourse. But the point I want to make is that there are certain values that have been modeled up with struggles. When you talk about NLC or the trade union as organized, you are talking about a group of people who organized based on Section 40 of the Constitution to pursue matters that relate to their work rights. When you talk about the labor movement, which is a bigger platform, which is a socio-economic movement, we ought to be looking at the original concept, the historical struggle that now combines the organized labor trade union, as they are, the professionals, wherever they are found, the traders, the informal sector. But what has happened in Nigeria most recently is that we now try to misrepresent the role of the trade union as those founded to relate with the employer and to an extent government, and even government as an employer, not government as the sovereign authority. When I was in the trade union actively, that was before 1999, we engaged the military, we were part of the June 12. You can see the structure of NADECO. If you even move a little back before independence and look at the formation of the political parties, particularly National Congress of Nigeria and Cameroon, you will see the combination of the forces that came together. You have the politicians, you have the journalists, you have traders, you have student union and what have you. But what has happened of late is that when we just look at organized labor as regulated by the law, and we now hand over to them the struggle ab initio, which ought to be a movement that now embraces every other social force that has to do with employment. They could be professional. In fact, the way it is structured, if you bring in, for instance, the professionals and the academia, is that they ought to provide the ideological content for the struggle. So the idea of the body language of the labor movement, we are missing it. When we pursued the matter of the June 12, we had what we call LASCO, Civil Society, Labor and Civil Society Organization. So the combination or the platform as it used to be is not what operates today. The trade union just came out from a struggle of minimum wage. And now you started a struggle that was not deepened in terms of consultation, in terms of how you have to now engage this end bad governance. And let me tell you, Nigerians are agreed that what we are running here is wrong. But let me also remind you that the constitution we operate has created governance centers. You have the federal government.
Okay.
You have the state. You have the...
So if I...
774 local government.
Okay, so if I understand you correctly, sir, you're saying that, the fact that the Labour is not pretty much at the forefront of this, the Labour shouldn't be blamed because they were not properly carried along to the build-up of this protest.
That is not what I'm saying. You see, for every struggle, consciousness is key. I have listened to the earlier speakers and aligned with their position. You heard about the struggle of NSACs, and he told you the level of consciousness that the Lagos protesters were mobilized. Anytime you have this struggle in the north, what you have is a mob that vents their emotion, that vents anger. Let me tell you what I find ironic before this struggle started. It was as if the governor of Kano identified with the protest and was saying, how can police want to stop people? But police was acting on intelligence. But the same governor was the first to declare curfew. Is it not a contradiction? My brother, consciousness and enlightenment is key. If you look at the United States, how would you align the struggle led by Martin Luther King and Malcolm X, or the struggle and protest of Mahatma Gandhi and Osama bin Laden? It's not about being carried along. If I am going to engage, for instance, in this presentation, assuming you have a clear organization, apart from that you are interviewing us, I would also want you to present the views of NUJ, the Nigerian Union of Journalists, where you ought to belong. The social movement is not a social movement. People wake up and say, how do you even identify what the issues are? How do you even identify who to engage? How can you begin to demand from a people that have brought about this level of misalignment in governance, and the same people you are asking to end bad governance?
Mr.
Is it not
Ede,
a contradiction?
apologies for
How do you
butting in there. Yeah, apologies for butting in there. Just to bring to the fray, earlier when we were talking to our correspondent who was live, who is live actually in Ojota, covering the protest, and then he spoke to one of the protesters who say they are unhappy about the demeanor of the government and those in authority. And from the look of things, this protest may go on further. I mean, what do you make of how far this would go and what we expect to come?
You see, the point I'm making, from my background, I'm also a lawyer. The whole idea of struggle is to bring about reform. If you look at the French Revolution, compared to the American liberation struggle, you can see the beauty of an engagement that seeks to reform what ought not to be tolerated.
Okay.
When you're talking about regime change,
Okay.
without a structured engagement, you are only asking for anarchy. And we know what anarchy usually procures.
All right, Mr.
So the point I am making
Okay.
is that in the course of mobilization, you are already engaging. So any space you have for dialogue, you must want to engage to know whether you can achieve some level of concession.
Okay.
But when you now say how long the struggle can go, it can go for a month. If you look at what has happened in Kenya, what do you think have been secured in terms of reform? Because in democracy, we are not talking about military regime. In fact, if it were to be a military regime and you bring anarchy to the point where you dislodge the status quo, what you will have is another group of soldiers that will come and make an announcement and say, okay, we have taken over. We will make ABC conception.
Mr. Ede, I'm sorry. I'm sorry to interrupt your line of thought. I would just like to bring in Hassan Nuruddin. He's been on for some time as the programs manager, Hope Behind Bars Africa. Hassan, you've had what, of course, various discussants have said. Your take so far on the conduct of the protest is day 3, and if at all, the focus is still there, given all of the violence and the destruction, and also, unfortunately, some of the deaths recorded in the course of all of this happening.
I think, in all honesty, the protest has been very, very peaceful on the part of the people. If you are looking for where there is violence, you would see that there is some kind of arm of the state involved in the protest. The people have given 30 days, at least a 30 days information about the protest before the protest even started. And what did the government do to alleviate the emotions of people around what they seem to be asking for in terms of end bad governance. It's been nothing but, rhetorics around, please do not protest. Government has sponsored more people to go out and say no to protest and everything like that. And when people come out to say, why is there always violence during Nigerian protests? You can ask them, the people who came out to protest, saying no to protest, how many of them did you notice violence in their rankings? There was no, all the say no to protests that happened for the past few weeks, none of them had violence in them. Because why? Most people understand.
I understand that we need to go on a quick break. When we return, of course, we'll pick up. Stay with us.
You're watching News Central TV. Yes, this is day 3 of the End Bad Governors protest. We're covering it live for you, bringing you feelers and feeds across Nigeria. Just to keep you abreast as to how situations are unfolding, we have our correspondents all across Nigeria to give us live updates as they unfold. I am Adebola Adedugba. I'm here with my colleague, and that's Dapo Adegboye. And as well, we are joined live in the studio by our guest. We have joining us live here to my right is George Ashiru, who is the chairman, African Democratic Congress in Lagos State. To my far right is Taiwo Osanyin, a policy implementation consultant. As well, joining us also virtually, we have Mr. Fidelis, who joined us, live in the course of this interview. And also, we also have Hassan Nuruddin, Program Manager, Hope Behind Bars Africa. Fidelis Ede, former National Vice President, Nigeria Labour Congress. All gentlemen, glad to still have you, join us to talk about these, end a bad governance protest. Let me talk about something else in terms of the economy of Nigeria. I mean, economists say this, and I'll come to you, Mr. Ashiru. I mean, there are concerns as to how much we lose in monetary value. Economists say we lose about 500 million, naira for each day of the protest. And so there's a need for us to call a truce and begin to dialogue. What do you make of that?
I mean, that's a definite understanding. Every time you shut down businesses, I mean, think of airlines that are not flying. Look at how many millions of dollars are lost just on that and multiplied by the exchange rate. So that would take you beyond 500 million, probably into billions. And then businesses that are not selling, 70% of our economy is the public sector, I mean, not the private sector driven, and then they are not able to do business as they should do business. And if 70% of your economy, of your GDP is, non-governmental, you know how much money is being lost. See, government will not lose anything because 80% to 90% of government revenue is made from abroad, from crude oil. So the government doesn't care if you go on strike for 3 months. It will not impact its ability to make money. The only time government ever listened was when the militants went and started bombing all the crude. Yes, when they started bombing all the crude
pipelines.
The pipelines. Then they were forced to listen, forced to negotiate with MEND, and then we had the amnesty project. So you can see that there's this feeling of impunity, that no matter how long they protest, the dollars will keep trickling in, the CBN will continue to see the money, the NNPC will not declare loss. And so it makes it easy for government to feel, okay, who really feels this? And I think that is what happens when you don't understand economy, that 70% of the GDP of our true GDP is well over $580 billion. It's our exchange rate that is messing up. Our GDP, our true GDP as of 10 years ago was $580 billion after rebasing. What has happened after that is that because we have not had a retraction in our rate of economic growth, it has not been minus all these years. So basically our GDP has grown, even if it's in tiny percentages, but exchange rate has messed it up. So it's taken us from the top economy in Africa to the number 3 or number 4. And it is again because the government doesn't understand that once you liberalize Forex, then the value of your GDP will be reduced, and the ability to borrow is now based on a newer, lower value. So there's a lot wrong with whoever is advising the president. There's a lot wrong in the way and manner in which they're prosecuting the economic policies.
Let me get the perspective of Mr. Osanyin. we've seen aviation sector affected as a result of this protest. What do you perceive in terms of investors, sentiment with the way things are right now? Day 3 of the End Bad Governance protest.
Well, unfortunately, we have declined enormously in terms of our FDI in the past 5 to 8 months. Most organizations are actually leaving Nigeria today. Most international organizations are leaving Nigeria today. I spoke to a friend of mine. He said all their international partners have left the organization, and it only shows that something is not working right because they understand the pure economic metrics of every nation. And when we look at the whole economic policies of this administration, it's sad that there is a disconnect in the economic framework of the country. Now look at, currently we have 24% on, I'm trying to gather my thought now. On interest rate. Now, which organizations are coming up today? No organization. So people will prefer to pick their money, put it on probably maybe on a treasury bills, or maybe one of these investment plan, and then put it there, and then you're going to get your money without doing anything. But rather than, instead of creating new companies and so no new investor will come in and want to do anything in your country. Right? They will just fix the money there. You maybe fix deposit and so on. Because let's look at it in reality. You have 100 billion naira. I have 100 billion naira. Why would I use it to invest in a new organization when I'm not sure of 24% interest rate? So I can be assured of 24% interest rate. That is 240 million naira of profits without doing anything with my money in a year.
Okay, let's move away from the impact of all of this on the economy. Let's go back to our Zoom guest, talking about Nuruddin. Nuruddin, now you're a young person. You've seen that this particular protest, encompasses quite a number of very young persons. Now, there have been questions around the conduct of the protest itself, if at all it's been done the right way to draw the attention of the government. Your take?
I think the protest has been done in the right way. Again, when people talk about what other ways can we do, I mean, before the protest started, I've been in a couple of meetings with senior government officials are there, and what they've always emphasized on is that dialogue with them. And
is that happening? Do you see a situation where young people are patient enough to come to the table to dialogue?
Yes, I mean, what have you been doing all these years? You've been dialoguing. I mean, from all the things that you've done. For example, even all the papers that have been put out, meetings with senior officials of the government and everything like that. All you get is promises, and then you say you should have patience. For example, you've had patience. The previous administration went away. That's 8 years. You've had patience all through. This is another administration going on, and what is happening is that as you grow older, you are losing the prime of your life. And I don't think anybody should be that patient to have all those things. The best thing is for government to know that people are actually angry, and this is how they can, showcase their anger. They've done all it is that they can do. Government knows what it is that is wrong with people. In fact, they've mentioned it in their please do not protest speeches that they've made across the past few weeks, but nothing has been done. And so when you say people should be patient, for how long? Okay, are you saying we should be patient for 30 days? Are you saying we should be patient for 60 days, for 90 days? How many days? Because again, it is gaslighting to say that people are not patient enough in terms of this protest. And this protest, I will tell you, has been peaceful, except when government puts a hand in it. And I can point out to you, the last few weeks, we've seen the no protest that has gone on. How many times did you report any sort of death or any sort of harassment or violence in it? Because again, it is being sponsored by the government. Anybody that tampers with it, it becomes a problem. But when the people who are legitimately angry about the state of the economy and the state of things come out to protest, it then becomes a problem, and you see a lot of harassment going on. Compare and contrast, even until 31st of August, there was still a protest in Abuja that nothing happened. But on the 31st of July, rather, on the 1st of August, you begin to see protests, you begin to see violence all around. And we've also tried as much as possible to tell, to engage arms of government that this is a peaceful protest. Provide the police to protect the protester. What we've seen is the police harassing them. We go to police station and say, can you release some of the arrested protesters? They are bouncing us around, telling us that, oh, they are arrested on the orders of this person, on the orders of that person, and everything like that. If government is true and they want a peaceful protest, you will see that everything will go in accordance. People were mentioning the chaos that happened in Kano and everything. Government has been putting out intelligence for the past few weeks. I've read so many things that it's ridiculous now. How come government did not know that there was going to be chaos in Kano? Kano is a very hot spot in Nigeria when it comes to protests, when it comes to riots. How come no policeman was there in the Nigerian Commission Center or at the traffic light where that traffic light was vandalized? These are the things that you need to look at. They say that the government has a hand in making this thing bad, and the people they are protesting their rights, which is enshrined in the Nigerian Constitution. Thank you.
Mr. Nuruddin, just to follow your, talk around peace, looking forward,
Yes.
Let's talk solutions now. Of all the demands made by protesters, we've seen bring the lawmakers, to end the national minimum wage. We've seen talks around reversal of the removal of a few subsidy, and all of the demands being made by protesters. Of all of these demands being agitated for, what would you say are the low-hanging fruits the government can quickly pluck, so as to quell further protest?
I think the first thing we need to do is the president needs to come out and address the nation. It is very, very important. The president has been silent all through the initial phases of, we are going to protest and everything like that. The president needs to come out, tell us his plans and everything. Number two, the major reason why people are protesting is because there is hunger in the land. We need to work on the massive inflation that is happening across all sectors, especially around food inflation. Food inflation, official report says is 40%, but if you go to the market yourself, it's more than 120%. If we're able to bring that down, I know that government has said they've removed taxes on imported food for 150 days, but that doesn't solve the problem. We need to solve that problem long term. And the insecurity across the country. We need to show people that we are especially invested in making sure that the country is much more secured for them. Farmers cannot go to the farm because there is no security for them. If those two can be handled almost immediately, I am very, very sure that people would then be able to pay. People would then be able to be patient enough for other policies to kick in. But a hungry person is going to be hungry irrespective. So you need to work on that. If I go to the market and I cannot afford the food that is being sold in the market, then there's a problem. Then you are telling me to now wait for infrastructures that will take 6 years. It will be a problem. But if I can eat, I can then say, oh yes, maybe there will be other things that will be done over time. So for me, I think 3 things needs to be done. Government needs to show that it is interested in the security of the people. The president needs to come out and address the people, number one. Number two, inflation needs to fall, especially food inflation. And number three, we need to work around the insecurity. We could see how the police was flexing their muscles all across the country in the build-up to the protest. How come they don't show up when kidnappers kidnap our people, when terrorists shows up on people's farm and kill them and all those kind of things? Those are the things that we need to see. And I'm sure people will then be a bit at ease. And we need all protesters to be released as soon as possible, almost immediately. Thank you very much.
All right, let's leave you for a moment, Nuruddin. Let me go to Mr. Ede. Now, Mr. Ede, looking at Labour, the recent achievement of the new minimum wage of 70,000 naira, which some are even questioning if at all it's a living wage, because looking at the current realities of basics, talking about food, for instance, a bag of rice, the amount doesn't meet up with that. So I would like you to speak on the fundamentals here. The core of the protest is hunger, right? The core of the protest is the price of fuel.
Well, the fundamental is that, listen, the fundamental, ironically, is that we have imbibed, how do I put it now, the wrong perception and indoctrination of Western education. You know, when I listen to people reduce this discussion as bilateral engagement, we and them, this is our country, and we have to confront the truth. On the issue of the minimum wage, it will be instructive for us to know that the struggle and what government has attained is not even a minimum wage. I've tried to put this thought across, but people seem not to follow through. But if you read it up in terms of concept, minimum wage means the minimum employers within certain category ought to pay anybody in the employment in terms of, if you use the grade level, grade 1, step 1. Minimum wage seeks to address work wage in terms of how slave labor ought not to operate. But what we have in Nigeria, because we don't have a national wage policy, is that the concept that is allowed in the Constitution, where they say the wage have to be reviewed every 5 years, is what the government deals with labor. And you know, even the 70,000 that was agreed is basically for federal workers. State governments will now return to look at what they can pay, and that is how the negotiation there will start. If you have the local government system, they will also. So how come Nigerians are not agreeing that the Adam Smith formula in capitalist economy is not minimum wage? But I don't know why we keep referring to it. You can look up the meaning of minimum wage. Minimum wage means the minimum any employer within certain category. I think it used to be anybody who has employment of 15 persons, and it is like a limited liability or so. Then you come to the state government. And when the government was negotiating, the federal government cannot negotiate wage.
Okay.
It has to be at the National Assembly. And the federal government will come there with their position as an employer of labor. The state government will come as an employer of labor. The private sector, represented by either NECA or Employers Forum, will come. At the end of the day, whatever is agreed there will now form minimum wage. But when it comes to wage review, which is what the government has, the president now said, it will no longer be 5 years, it will be 3 years. But people are not following through this. And the National Assembly now have to bring an act to...
Okay, it seems we have a bit of connectivity issues with Mr. Uday, but if you can hear me, sir, thank you so much. But we need to go on a quick break. When we return, of course, we will pick up. Stay with us. So streaming live on social media, you can be part of, the conversations there. Well, at this point, we will be linking up with our correspondent, one of our correspondents in Abuja, Idong Joseph, to bring us up to speed as regards the happening in Cairo Market. Idong, thank you for your time. All right, I understand that we're trying to connect with Idong Joseph. Let's go to Jos right now, where we have Chizoba Nyonu on standby. Chizoba, what's the update?
Good afternoon, and thanks for having me. Well, the update is that the protesters on the plateau have just dispersed, and the beauty of it is still that it has remained peaceful, even on the third day of the protest, where people from diverse ethnic groups, different religious divides, political parties, and all those, but they have all united in one voice, which is to ask for a better way of governance in Nigeria. And then another major update is, if you can see behind me here, of course you can't see any of the protesters because they have all dispersed, warming up to get back here tomorrow to continue with the protest. But the beauty is that you can see the roads, they finished the protest and they have all swept the road, keeping it clean the way they met it. And so that's one thing standing out for plateau protesters since the day this protest began on the plateau.
All right, thank you for that update, Chizoba. And
yes, we understand we have Idong Joseph, who is in Abuja, Cairo Market, precisely in Abuja. Idong, just paint a picture of where you are. What's happening?
At the Karo Market, one of the local community outside the city center. And we've come here to know how trade has been for traders here in this market. And we've spoken to several of them. And some of them told us that for the past 3 days, today is the first time that they are coming out to conduct their business. And some others who even had managed to be coming out since the protest started told us that business has not been moving as it used to be.
All right.
So basically, that's the update from here.
All right, Idong Joseph, thank you for the update, and please stay safe. Well, this, of course, is where we just, on this bit, lower the tempo a bit because the program doesn't end. I'd like to say a special thank you to all the guests that joined us at this time, talking about Mr. George Ashiru is the chairman of the African Democratic Congress from Lagos State. Joined us live in the studio. We also have Taiwo Osanyin. He's a political analyst and also a former aspirant. We also had join us Mr. Ude, who is the former national vice president of the NLC, who joined virtually, and
Hassan Nuruddin, program manager, Hope Behind Bars Africa. They all joined us to talk about this Day 3 End Bad Governance protest.
Yes, just for you to know, we are still live on social media. Please be part of the conversation there. That's News Central TV. You can follow us for updates there. Move around with us. Tell your friends to tell a friend to tell a friend to tell a family member to please be part of the conversation there. It's not over. The special broadcast still continues, but myself and Adebola will be passing the torch to Leko Onabanjo and Dashin Usman. They'll be taking it up from here.
Absolutely.
Many thanks. You can follow me personally on social at Dapo, Adegboye, and also Adebola.
I am Adebola, Adedugba. Same name on social media.
Yeah.
Thank you for staying tuned, and do still stay tuned. It's bye for now.
Stay safe. Bye for now.